And
Okay.
today we'll finish the last topic in operations, which is inventory and supply chain. So you need to catch up on quality, Emma. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so today we'll be talking about managing inventory. That's the first part. Because inventory is actually part of the lean production. If you've done quality with me last time, do you guys still remember what methods we have in lean production? We have learned three, I think. Can I give you a reminder, Laura? Remember just in time? Just in time.
Yes.
There's others. There are other two.
Yeah.
I'll quickly show you. Okay, now.
Cell production.
Good. And one more.
And time-based management.
Time-based. Okay, so I put
Yeah.
the three methods below inventory. The reason I put here is because they are part of the lean production. We're trying to reduce waste. Yeah. So you only produce when you have orders. So these three methods, they are within lean production. So managing inventory is also part of lean production, right? So if you're thinking about this, how does inventory is relevant to reducing waste? Pingsu.
Sorry.
Okay. Why managing inventory is part of the lean production, but lean production is all about reducing waste? Do you want to keep all the inventory just in the factory, or do you want to order inventory when you have orders?
Order.
Yeah, if you put inventory in the factory, if no one is ordering, you just put them there. It's not in use, and after a long time, your inventory will go out of date. That's waste. Yeah. So managing inventory is part of the lean production, which is trying to reduce waste because that improve your operations performance. Okay. So the rest of the point along the way, I'll quickly point out later on. So I'm going to quickly move on to the first bit, which is flexibility and mass customization. What I will highlight a few keywords: personalization, custom tailoring. I'm not going to highlight meeting customer needs because every time we have this objective, and near the mass production prices. Okay, so if you're thinking about mass customization, that's three keywords you need to remember. First one, personalization. Second one, custom tailoring. And then the price for mass customization is quite close to the mass production prices. Can you think of one example which is personalization? Hannah.
Yes, I don't know.
Personalization. Think about all those clothing brands.
What about writing initials?
Yeah, that's part of the personalization. Think about you want certain color. No, you guys know, like,
you want the name of the brand, maybe.
Yeah, and you guys know, like, Nike, Adidas, those sneakers, right? You can customize your sneaker. You can paint different patterns on the sneaker, right? You can also put your names on the sneaker. You can pick different colors. Okay, so those are all personalization because in nowadays operation, they think this is important. The reason behind it is customers now they have personal needs. They want to be unique. So in operation nowadays, we're trying to cater for their custom tailoring needs. Okay, the problem with this one, I'll give you one example here. This whole paragraph below is just trying to explain to you what is customization, yeah? So the example here is Range Rover. You know this car, this car brand. So if you look at the dot point here, you can choose different color, different engine size, different fuel, different transmission, different wheel, tire, different interior fabrics, design, yeah, different functions. So they're doing a very good job in customization, but what's the problem here? What are the drawbacks of this? In your operations, if everyone is asking to customize their product, how long does that take? How much money the company has to spend in operation?
No, it will be too expensive to do that.
Of course, it will be true. It will be very expensive. You know, if
But
you
everybody wants something different.
yeah, it's expensive. You're right.
But
And
they pay, no?
yeah, they pay, but it takes a long time for the company in operations to produce them. You know what I mean? Everyone wants different things. Even they pay extra, but it takes longer time in operations. And we have to wait until the order came in to produce it because we don't know yet. So basically, you can't just buy materials inventory, just put in your factory because you don't even know what parts you need, what color you need. Yeah. So of course, many companies nowadays they have customization, but they don't do mass. They only do customization for a small group of customers. If you want to do mass customization, you have to be like in the luxury industry. You have the money, you have the time, you have the reputation, you have the customer group. They always want personalized stuff. For general products, it will be very difficult. Yeah. If you buy milk, if you buy like bread, you don't need customization in their operations. It's usually for these ones in their operations. Okay, another example here. Nike. They offer customers different patterns, different trainers, sneakers. You can personalize your shoes. Okay, what's the advantage though?
It's unique and it's your taste. So
Good,
what you
it's
want.
very unique. People don't mind paying a little bit more just to get a personalized style.
But
Yeah.
it's really long to receive the shoes after that.
Yes, and also I think Nike is doing a really good job because they still pay attention to their general products. You know what I mean? They do personalized trainers, but they also have a lot of like basic or general trainers. They still put on the shelves for like normal consumers to buy, which they don't want personalized trainers. Yeah, so their operation, they look after both. So they are very flexible. Some, let's put this way, most of the customers, when they go to Nike, they just want to get a very basic, all white, all black sneaker, very basic style. They don't need customized trainers. Yeah. So this part of the operation, Nike will get ready for the general public, but for personalized trainers, there will be other group of people. They need to alter their operations. So this is a good example. They have flexibility. They also pay attention to customized products as well. Okay, now Inventory. We talk about managing inventory. We have mass customization. It's different inventory from general product. Yeah. Now, how do we match our supply with demand? How do we match supply with demand? How do you know your supply is not too much? How do you know your demand is not too much? Okay, so most of the company, if you look at the bottom part here, those are the important two sections. Most companies, when they respond to the demand, in order to, adjust their supply, they have two ways. First way, they can reduce their capacity. Okay, what if Nike sneaker next year, we don't have a big demand. Not many people want to buy Nike sneaker for next year. So as a company in your operations, we need to reduce our capacity. Yeah, what you can do, you can sell your fixed assets. We don't need that more facilities. We don't need that more raw materials to produce the sneaker for next year because we don't have demand. You need to changing the working hour to shorter hours because we don't have demand. There's no point hiring people to produce. Yeah, we might need to get rid of some employees. Yeah, we don't need so many full-time employees because next year there's no demand. We only need people to work 2 days a week to produce the demand for next year. We also want to transfer the resources to another area because we can't finish using all the resources if there's no demand. So this is one way to improve operational efficiency by reducing the capacity if the demand is very low, okay? On the other side, if the demand is going to be very high, which means there are a lot of people want to buy your product, how do you increasing your capacity to produce all this demand? First of all, you can increase the scale of your factory. So now you have 200 people working in the factory, right? Maybe you need to find another bigger factory to hire 500 people to produce more sneakers because there will be a high demand. You might need to ask your employees to work longer, long hours, hire some new employees to produce more. And also you want to be flexible as well. For example, you give them like a target because the demand is increasing. You say, one day you have to produce 200 sneakers. So some staff will tell you that's too much, we can't do it. And then you tell them, maybe you work in a team, remember the cell production, yeah? You work in a team together, you can reach the target within your team. Give them some flexibility. The last one, subcontracting. This one is also called outsourcing. I'll talk about this one later because there's another slide just on outsourcing. Okay, so do we understand on this page, there are two ways to match your supply with demand. If your demand is very low, we reduce the capacity, we reduce the supply, yeah? If your demand is really high, we need to increase the capacity, increase the demand just to meet your demand. Do we understand this concept now? Basically, you're just producing more to meet the demand. If your demand is very low, we're just reducing the supply.
Yeah.
Any questions? Emma, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, good. So before we move on, there is a concept we've done. We talked about this before, but I just want to quickly touch base on spare capacity. Do you guys still remember? We've talked about a concept called capacity utilization. Do you guys still remember that?
What's the name of the concept?
Capacity utilization. I just tap up on the slides. Did you see?
Yeah.
We talked about this concept before, if you remember. This one will be in the percentage if you represent it. Hingsu, do you know where is this concept we talk about? Emma, can you find it? This one.
Yeah.
Can you quickly tell us what is utilization of capacity?
Making use of all the resources you have to the full of capacity.
Good. So basically, we're talking about capacity you used divided by your full capacity, right? So this is a formula, I remember. We talk about this. So what if I say our Nike, for example, Nike, the capacity utilization for Nike this year is 80%. What do I mean by that? Laura. So Nike this year, their utilization of capacity is 80%. What do I mean by this? Laura, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Can you repeat exactly what is it?
yeah.
Capacity utilization, please.
Okay. So can you see this formula here, Hannah? This one.
Yeah.
So capacity used divided by the full capacity the company has. Your full capacity will be 100% if you use everything you have to produce your products. Yeah. This is how much you used. For example, I'll give you one example. Nike, right? In their factory, their full capacity is to produce 1,000 pair of sneakers. That's their full capacity. Okay. For 2020, 2019, let's do. So Nike produced 800 pairs. How do you calculate the utilization?
$100/1,000. Sorry, 800 over 1,000.
That's correct. So you get a number of 80%. Yeah. So that's how much we used our resources and employees and supplies to produce for this whole year. This is only 80% of the full capacity. If we use everything we have, we can produce this much. Did you get the concept now?
Yeah.
Okay, now let me tell you another number. 20% is the spare capacity, which we haven't used. Very simple, 100% minus 80%. Okay, so Nike for 2019, the spare capacity is 20%.
Yeah, it's the opposite of capacity use.
Yes. So 100% minus 80% is the capacity we haven't used. That's why we call them spare.
Okay.
Spare is also called free. Yeah? But why spare capacity is important in operations?
Because if the operation doesn't work, we can use the spare capacity to improve their business.
Very good, but we can use another term. For example, the 80% we produced for Nike sneakers, 800 pairs, right? There are 20 pairs have problems. 20 pairs have defects, sorry. They have problems. Okay, now if we have spare capacity, we can use this 20% to quickly replace, to produce another 20 pairs to make sure there's no problems with our product. Because if this 20 pairs goes to the customers, the reputation will be damaged. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So this is our buffer. We call this buffer stock. It gives us time, give us spare capacity to reproduce the ones that have problems. It is a good thing for us to have, but also at the same time, it can be a waste. If we can't use this 20%, it can be waste as well. So if you're thinking about inventory and operations, we want to make sure we use up all the resources and capacity, but at the same time, we want to have spare capacity to buffer. Okay. Can I move on to the next slide? Are we all clear with spare capacity now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Sorry, sir.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I have a question. That the buff stock is mean cannot sell out or just prepare for next year.
Sometimes you can't use it for next year because you don't know what type of products you have next year on sale. So you might need to use different resources, different materials.
So buffer stock means it's a negative.
It can be negative. Also, it can be advantage for you.
Okay, thank you.
Because you might have some problems with your product for this year. So you need to have this to replace the problem ones. Yeah?
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you leave all the resources there unused, it will be a waste of resources.
Okay.
You know, for some other companies, their capacity is raw materials. You cannot leave raw materials in the factory for over a week or two. Everything will be perishable. It will be
like a restaurant or
yeah, like food. It's all go bad. You can't use it. Then it's a waste.
But you just said company Nike, but the shoes will never. How to say that?
I know it won't be it will still be the materials will be still there. But the problem is
the
how do you know?
will be out.
How do you know next year you're using the same resources to produce the same sneakers?
Okay.
Every year they have different styles, different materials, different leather for their shoes. Yeah, it can also be a waste.
Yeah.
So it's
I understand.
It's a good or bad.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna skip the examples here. Let me see. Maybe I'll talk about the second one because that's hotel. You know, like in a hotel, you have peak time, you also have off-peak time. Sometimes during off-peak, there are not many bookings, not many people staying. So you might want to use your spare capacity by offering some special discount. So your spare room will be used during off-peak time. For example, your occupancy is only 40% during low season. Yeah, what's your spare capacity now? Alan. Alan, are you here? Where is Alan? Okay. Simona, you just joined in, right?
Yes.
Okay. So if the hotel,
Do not allow me.
oh, that's fine. I just saw the request. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. So the occupancy for a hotel is 40% during low season. So how much percent of their rooms haven't been used?
60.
60%. So we call 60% their spare capacity. This is quite, sorry, 60% is quite high in terms of spare capacity. Are you gonna just leave the rooms empty, or are you gonna offer something special, discount price, to make sure you use up the spare capacity? Hannah, which way to go? Are you gonna leave all these rooms empty, or are you gonna?
No, because it's more than the half, so I will do a discount or something like that to do another offer.
Good. So we offer discount. We try to use our spare capacity, but for my personal experience, if I was working in the hotel, I'm going to use up 50% of the spare capacity for sale.
And where are the 10 other percent?
10% is my buffer.
Okay.
What
You
do I
have to
mean?
keep a buffer every
Yes.
time?
For example, if this 40%, right, rooms occupied, maybe 2 rooms, there's water leaking in the room. I have these 10% rooms available to change rooms for them.
Okay.
Yeah. If the customer is not happy with the room, I have other rooms for them to change. This is just for my safety reasons as a buffer.
But they also need buffer in peak time.
Normally in peak time is 99%. We only leave 1% for buffer. Yeah, because they understand it's peak time. The customers, they know it's peak time. So they expect the room is all gone. But in reality, if your capacity utilization is over 90%, which means you're okay. Over 90%, which means you have efficient operation. So this is the number we normally try to achieve. So we leave 10% just for buffer inventory.
Okay, so we don't have spare capacity in this case.
In any company, there is no possibility you achieve 100% utilization. That's just impossible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if we're okay with spare capacity, I'm going to move on to another small concept. It's very simple, but very quickly. This is called rationalization. This is one way we can reduce our supply. Most companies, they are now using rationalization. So what do I mean? It's basically cutting the scale of operation. Can you think of another word just to describe rationalization in a simple word? Can I use this one? Yeah, this one is easier for you guys to remember, I think. Downside. For example, we don't have those high demand, so you need to reduce your supply. What can you do? You move from a bigger factory to a smaller factory. For example, this year we have demand of 1,000 pairs of sneakers, but next year we only have 200 demand. Do we still need to rent a large factory to produce 1,000? No. So in this way, we save money on the rent, we save the cost. Yeah. And also we improved operation efficiency by downsizing our scales. Okay, so that's another way we can improve operations by rationalization. You can think of a lot of examples nowadays in operation. Many companies, they're downsizing at the moment because of the virus, right? I know a lot of hotels, they have no bookings, no one staying. So they're telling their staff, you used to work 40 hours per week, but now we're downsizing your hours. You only work 20 hours per week. That's another way of downsizing. I'm not just saying the scales. Okay, do we have any questions for rationalization?
No.
Okay, next one, outsourcing. Remember, I talked about this one just before, but I said I'll explain this one here. What you have to understand, outsourcing is sometimes when a company asks another company to make all of or part of their products. So sometimes this company A, they ask company B to make their products. The reason behind this, I'm just trying to explain to you here, okay? Company B may have a cheaper supply when they produce all the supplies, okay? They can have a cheaper price for the material. Maybe their factory is in somewhere in Southeast Asia. So the labor will be cheaper normally than the Western country as well. So when they are trying to outsource, they are trying to reduce their capacity, reduce their cost. That's the main purpose of outsourcing. Can you think of like some examples, like companies outsource their product?
Can you repeat it again, please? It's
Which
when a
one?
company B is cheaper than a company A.
So, okay, this is company A, this is company B, right?
Yeah, okay.
The reason company A asked company B to make their products is because either they can have a cheaper price in supplies, or they can have cheaper labors.
Okay.
So if you're paying attention to all the things you're using, so 5 years ago, most of them, 90% of the things you're using, they are made in China. Yeah. So
Yeah.
normally the companies, they will ask other companies in China to make their products. They outsource their production and operations to other companies because it's cheaper, reduce the cost.
Okay.
But nowadays, China's manufacturing prices has been increased. So company A is looking for other companies. For example, they move to Vietnam, they move to Indonesia. So they want to find cheaper outsourcing companies in order to reduce their cost, in order to get a higher profit. So that's the main purpose and the aim of outsourcing. Any questions for outsourcing?
No. Just the only thing that we have to write is the sentence and the word that you underline.
Yes, because Hannah, the problem is we only have about 2 hours per week online in teaching. It's not like we have 9 hours in school. So I have to subtract all the key points.
And read you the lesson. Okay.
Yeah, you can, if you don't understand, you can read through the explanation below.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So very quickly on outsourcing, there are a few advantage and few disadvantage. I'm going to quickly explain one each. For the benefit, companies can react quickly to the demand. The reason we outsourcing is because they are cheap. Maybe they are fast and they have cheaper supply. If anything in demand change, we can quickly tell the outsourcing company, oh, we need to increase our supply. We need to have more people working. But because outsourcing companies normally cheaper, so they can cope, they can deal with this. Yeah. But the problem with outsourcing, you do not have direct control over the quality. This one is quite easy to think about. If you think about company A outsourcing their production to company B, but company A is in London, company B is in China. So how can they monitor their production? How can they monitor the quality of the product? So when they supply all the product back to London, company A will sell all the products to the customers. But if you're not there during production, you don't know if the quality is consistent. What if the quality is very poor and then your product go to the customers? Customers, they are not happy with the quality. Then you have to go to outsourcing company to make change, right? But that's too late already because customers already found out quality is poor. So there are other benefits and drawbacks. So I need you to spend some time to do some reading by yourself. Yeah, because today's lesson is quite long, so I need to quickly go through the key concept. Okay, next one. We talk about reducing the working hours to improve performance. If the demand is very low, the supply is very low as well. We don't need all the full-time workers. We need to have temporary part-time employees. Okay, the reason is anyone working below 38 hours per week. So it's, sorry, below 38 hours per week. They're all part-time, casual employees. Do you guys know how many hours like full-time employees work every week?
No.
8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
45 or
45?
40, sorry.
40 hours, that's full-time, yeah? So the reason we're using part-time and casual employees is because we can tell them how many hours they need to work. If there's no demand, I'll say to you, can you just come for 20 hours this week? Because we don't need to produce that much. But next week, if it's busier, I will say, can you come for 30 hours? Because we're busy. I pay you 30 hours too. If there's no demand, I'll tell you, you don't need to come next week. There's no demand. So company can tell them because they do not have all the rights and entitlement as full-time employees. This way, I know it sounds very bad, but the problem is companies, they're always thinking about profit. The less they pay for their employees, the higher the profit will be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes if they have to do this, they will do this. Okay, so this slide, I only want you to look at this example here. So normally during Christmas for 1 month from December to January, the shopping centers are normally very busy, okay? So what they do, they always take on more temporary or casual employees. They will tell them, okay, you need to help us for 1 month because it's very busy. I'll pay you 1 month but after January, we don't have a job for you. So that's how we save our cost. We reduce the cost in labor. Because if you're a full-time employee, they need to sign a contract with you for at least 1 year. It doesn't matter how many hours you worked, they still pay you. You can call in sick. If you're sick, they still need to pay you. So you have the holidays as well. They still need to pay you. But for temporary employees, they just pay you for the hours you worked. Okay, any questions for reducing hours for employees to improve performance of operations?
No.
No? Okay. Now, producing to order. This is another way. This is not a standard order. It's quite similar to personalization. Okay, look at this one. Land Rover, the car company, they only manufacture like Katie Price. That's a person, I don't know her, but she requests a pink Land Rover, okay, or a bulletproof. So those special requests, we call them producing to order. So this type of order, we normally charge a much higher price because they're very difficult to do and it takes a long time. Okay, so of course, they're still producing the standard Land Rover cars, but if they have this producing to orders, they will also take it to make sure the customer needs are satisfied. But the problem is they will pay a lot of money just to get this order to be done. Before you do this, before you take this producing to order, you need to think about if it's worth it. Okay? This takes a long time. The materials will be very expensive. A lot of people has to work on this one particular car to make sure it's bulletproof. So how much he's paying you? Is it worth your time? So that's why this is called a non-standard. It's not a standard order, but it's just producing to order. In your operation process, you're always getting producing to order. As we talk about, people want different things, different features, different color. You need to think about if you are taking the order, if it's worth your time and effort. Okay, now I'm going to skip this slide because there are some other operational factors we need to consider when you're producing to order. I talk about the cost, the future orders, the potential, and the influence on the employees. Yeah, so you need to make sure the decision is wisely considered. You can't just say to Prince Charles, oh, I'll do it because you're the prince. No, you need to think through the process. Okay, so these two slides, I'm going to leave it to you to read. Some benefits, some drawbacks of producing to order. So basically, we just talk about some of them. The cost, the employees, did you make your decision based on the future potential if you're getting another order from him? Yeah. Okay, now, so we've done basically everything in inventory, operations, efficiency, and supply and demand. The next slide, I'm going to use this chart. I'm going to use full screen just to explain to you. Where is the play? Yeah. Can you all see this inventory control chart?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you look at this part, this is a stock level. this particular company using 100, 200, 300, up to 600. Okay, Hingsu, can you tell me which number is their full capacity?
600.
Good. Full capacity, okay. Simona, which number is their buffer stock, which means the spare capacity?
100.
Yeah, if you look at here, that's the buffer stock, right? So 100, there is a red line. So this is our spare capacity. So we want to utilize our capacity up to 100, so we have the buffer stock. Okay, on this part, we're talking about time. So the first month, second month, and third month. If you go from your full capacity, you're utilizing your inventory. Of course, along the time, your capacity will be lower and lower and lower. Okay, Laura, can you tell me when we reach to which level of the stock we need to reorder?
300.
300, right. That's the reorder level. We want to be cautious. We want to make sure when our production and operation is going, we don't run out of inventory. So at 300 level of your stock, we start to order more. Yeah, so we make sure when we reach this level of stock, we start to reorder. And then we also need to remember when we reach 100, that's our buffer stock. We make sure our capacity utilization stop here. The reason is sometimes we don't have time to wait for your reorder to come in. For example, here, you reorder some more stocks. But the problem is you're still using the stock every day. It will go lower, but you don't know how long this will take to arrive. So that's why we stop here to make sure we have buffer stock until the new order came in. Okay, and there's one more thing in this graph, is here. As I explained to you, the lead time is normally 2 weeks because we're trying to make sure the new order come in within 2 weeks before we run out. That's why it's important to have the buffer stock to keep the operations going. Okay, now, do we all understand or have a clear picture of this chart?
Yes.
Yes. Before I move on, just quickly, on the stock level and on the time, every company is using different measurements. For this particular company, they use 100 up to 600, but for other companies, they might use 1,000 up to 10,000. They might use every week if they want to monitor their stock very closely. Yeah, so this is just one example of this particular company when we talk about inventory management. Okay, let me see how many slides we have. This one I just explained to you because everything on those 2 slides, they are just on the chart. So I used the whole chart to explain to you. Now, another big topic here, which is how do you choose a very effective suppliers? As we all know, we are trying to managing our inventory. We're trying to produce enough supply if the demand is high. We're trying to reduce supply when the demand is low. So among those 3 processes, suppliers will become the key factor because they are the one give you supply. Your supply will meet the demand. Your supply is also your inventory. That's why you need to write down the 6 important factors of choosing effective suppliers. So we've got price, we've got payment terms, we've got quality, we've got capacity, we've got reliability and flexibility. So those are the 6 key points of choosing effective suppliers. Let me know when you finish writing these key points. I need to explain to you each one of them. Some of them are very straightforward, simple. Some of them you might need to listen to the explanation. Okay. So price, the first one, price. Price is very straightforward. Okay. The cheapest price is not always the best. We are looking for the value for money. So basically, if you're only thinking about the cheapest supplier, the quality of the supply might be very poor because what you pay, what you get. Yeah. Most of the cheaper suppliers, they do not offer any flexibility. If you want to reorder, if you want to order more, reduce order, they cannot do it because they're already cheap. But they also have benefits. Of course, you reduce your price. So you have more profit because your supply is very cheap. So if your supplier is cheap, your supply will be cheap as well. If you keep the price the same, your profit margin will be higher. Yeah. But the problem is they're not very reliable. Their quality is not very good. Also, there's no flexibility as well. Okay, payment terms. Okay, this one, let me just highlight a few. So one thing you have to remember, some suppliers, they do not offer any payment terms. For example, suppliers ask you to pay upfront. So that's the full payment. So they give you no payment terms, but other suppliers, they might offer you 3-month delayed payment. Laura, what do I mean by 3 months delayed payment?
You should have paid 3 months before, like earlier.
So you can use our supply for 3 months
Yeah.
before paying. So this gives companies some flexibility. Most of the company, they have cash flow problems. They don't keep all the cash in hand, right? So when they start using the supply for 3 months, they are generating the profit. They're generating the cash flow. So they can pay back after 3 months. It's like a credit card. But companies prefer, so most companies, not like, let's not generalize. Most companies prefer to pay a delayed payment so they can keep their cash flow running. If you're running your company, do you want to pay everything upfront, or do you want to have a delayed payment? Emma, which one do you prefer?
Pay everything up front
Why?
because it's better and you get the cash. And then what if the person doesn't have the money after to pay it?
Okay, the problem with this one is most companies, they don't keep the cash in the company. They do not have the cash flow. Okay, and also if you pay everything up front, you don't even know the supply is in good quality. Maybe you use them for 3 months first to check all the supplies are the ones you want. The quality is consistent, and then you pay for the 3 months. If you're happy, you continue. If you're not happy with the quality, you can tell them, well, I tried out 3 months, I give you the payment, but I would like to change to another supplier. If you pay everything up front for a year, you cannot change your supplier. You're bound to the contract. Right? Okay, number 3. Okay, guys, I've got a few more slides. I'm going to run over all the key points here. So for quality, all the supplies you're choosing, they must make sure there is a consistent level of quality at all time, at all time. Even one defective product can ruin your reputation. So that's why quality is important when you're choosing your supplier. Okay, guys, I'll give you one example and then we can move on. If you go to your favorite restaurant, you've been there 20 times, every time the food is perfect. You love the taste, it's very clean, the service is great. But at the 21st time you go to that restaurant, in your food, there is a fly. There is a fly. And then everything will be changed. You might talk to the waiter, the manager, what happened. And then in the future, you might not want to return to the restaurant because of that one fly. So that's why we're talking about at all times. Especially when I was in the hotel, right? So every day I see maybe 200, 300 people, but after one day of work, the only thing I can remember is the complaint, the one complaint. I forgot all about the good things they say, because most of the customers, they're nice. 99% they will say something nice to you, but that only one customer says something really bad to you, that's the only thing you remember. Okay, that's quality. Now, capacity. Sorry. So we spent some time talking about capacity utilization, capacity and spare capacity. So when your supplier is very effective, the capacity is really important for them because they can then provide you the unique supply you need to produce your product. And your supplier, the one you're choosing, you know they have the supply you want, you know the supply they gave you, can make sure your product is actually unique. That's where you found your effective supplier. Because some other suppliers, they might not be able to give you the supply you want. Their capacity might not be the same as the one you want. We're not just talking about the quality and also the quantity. For example, you're looking at a supplier who can give you 1,000 supply units. Smaller suppliers, they do not have the capacity to provide you 1,000 units. Because some smaller suppliers, their capacity utilization maybe is only 500. Yeah. So when you pick your supplier based on the capacity, you need to make sure you can't find something from elsewhere. They are the perfect supplier to you. Okay, the second last point, reliability. We're just looking at those 2 points highlighted in black. Okay. Delivery. Do they deliver their supply on time? How much the supplier meets the terms of the contract? For example, we talk about delayed payment. This should be on the contract. You should pay them 3 months later. You don't pay them upfront. If it's on the contract, you tell the supplier, well, we see the conditions and terms on the contract, so I should pay you in 3 months' time, not now. So we need to be able to rely on our supplier. They need to be trustworthy as well. So this is the 2 points to measure their reliability. Are they deliver their goods on time? Are they deliver their supply on time? Are they meeting the terms of the contract as well? Okay, last point, we have flexibility. Okay, now, anything could change during operations. So in your production, you might face different problems. So your supplier needs to be flexible to make things around. Otherwise, it will cause you a negative publicity, a negative image. There will be also transport difficulties. If your supplier is not flexible and effective enough, all these problems will be happening. What if one day your supplier say to you, oh, tomorrow I can't give you all the supply that you requested because we just don't have the supplies. What can you do? Do you have spare capacity in your factory to buffer? Do you have a second choice in your supplier you can contact? Otherwise, your operation will stop. You have no supply. So you need to be flexible by choosing your suppliers. If you only have one supplier and something happened, you can't do anything. You don't have supply anymore. This will be very bad because you cannot deliver your product to your customers. The reputation will be damaged. Your delivery will be delayed. Everything will be crumbled. Okay, so those are the 6 key points when you're trying to choose a very effective supplier. Okay, there's one more thing I want to quickly talk about. It's called vertical integration. Now, these people, they just buy their suppliers straight away. If your company is big enough, if your company is very powerful, what you can do is something called vertical integration. Basically, you buy your supplier's company, your supplier becomes part of your company. So you can control them. and monitor your supplier within your company. This is called vertical integration. Some big companies, they actually bought over their suppliers to become part of their companies. So it's easier for them to get supply. It's easier for them to monitor as well. I think Apple, they do have their own suppliers. They don't need to find another new suppliers. Their suppliers within their company is very stable. They can look after their suppliers. They can also control and monitor their suppliers. Okay, now summary. First point, Simona, can you quickly read out the summary?
To enable lean production techniques to be as effective as possible, thereby ensuring the business is as efficient as possible. Manufacturers have to work very closely with suppliers as well as understanding customer needs.
Okay, into second point.
Matching the supply of goods coming into the factory with demand for goods going out of the factory is a complex management technique with many variables.
Okay, Hannah, last point.
The key is to work as closely as possible with reliable suppliers who will give you the best payment terms.
Okay, so after this topic, do you have some understandings of managing inventory? Do you have some ideas of supply and demand? How do we choose our suppliers? Why those things are important for operations performance? Okay, so this is the last topic in operations.